more that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to this Thursday Live at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is Andy Prisco with Jumpstart Mastery. We're coming to you live on everything all at once. The Jumpstart Mastery Network, 2 Facebook pages, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Welcome all. This topic couldn't be more timely. The application of negotiation skills, particularly things that are generally associated with hostage negotiation in non-hostage crises. What's probably the most covered non-hostage crisis in our socials right now? It's what's going on with the protests throughout the United States as a result of what's happened in Minnesota. So I wanted to tailor today's discussion to something that I think everyone can benefit from, and that is, thank you, Jess. There is something on the top of my screen here. I'm going to move my phone for those of you who are watching on the Jumpstart Mastery Network and eliminate that problem. I'm going to put you here, and I'll try to look back and forth. So embarrassing that I'm doing this right now, but I'm glad you said something, Jess. Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. The first thing that I'd like to say is something that I learned from the great Gary Nesner. The vast majority of incidents requiring the skills of a negotiator, particularly someone who's trained in hostage negotiation, are non-hostage events. These are events that are not featuring the detainment of a human being against their will to enlist demands. Most of the time, the situations that negotiation skills are brought to are situations where someone is in some kind of behavioral crisis or emergency. They are angry and aggressive. They're experiencing distress due to some kind of serious mental illness, psychosis, or biological motivation, or it's characterological in nature, and it is a product of learned behavior over time to get their needs met. I'm going to move the phone one more time because this going back and forth is also not working well. And I'm going to probably ask everyone to endure the thing that'll be at the top of the screen. It's the bottom of my other camera. You're getting all kinds of studio behind the scenes here while I'm precariously doing something. Hopefully that will work. So you're just going to have to forgive me that up top. But families, friends, coworkers are finding themselves yesterday and today in distress and disagreement over what happened in Minnesota. And I do not want to spend time discussing what happened. I want to talk about how to talk about it. How do we engage other human beings when we have differing opinion, and in many cases, very strong differing opinion? I had just got done describing how Gary Nesner, who was the founder of the FBI's Crisis Negotiation Unit and probably one of the founding stakeholders of the hostage negotiation movement globally, referred to the department in the FBI that was formed to negotiate hostage events. It was titled Crisis Negotiation Unit. It was not titled Hostage Negotiation Unit. Now, the NYPD did make the claim in their initiation of the negotiation movement to describe it as hostage negotiation team. They make the claim to that title and should. But let's talk about the skills. What are the skills of the negotiator that are useful in all of these other events? They are the same skills that fall under the title of mediation, verbal de-escalation, crisis de-escalation, verbal intervention. These are principles that are very squarely in my personal bailiwick, and why for the last many years now I have sought out people from disciplines other than behavioral health to see what we share. And what I've come to understand and experience is that we share an awful lot, nearly everything, in terms of how we engage someone to enlist self-regulation, collaboration, to co-regulate. There are a million terms you can use to describe the phenomena of calming things down and engaging in less aversive, more constructive dialogue. So for the last few days, I've been in the Bay Area in California with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and the Community Crisis Response Team, providing training in these very ideas. The Office of Neighborhood Safety is a department that mobilizes and deploys to sites where there has been gun violence and death to mitigate retaliatory violence. This is one of the most exciting things I've been exposed to in quite some time. The skills that they use to engender peace, to engender the suspension of retaliation or reaction, are the very principles that we cherish in verbal de-escalation training. And we came away from that event the same way we come away from many, many other events. The business of the crisis negotiation skills, you would be surprised how much of it you already do in your day-to-day life. You just don't know what you're doing when you're doing it, and you don't know what to call it. That's probably one of the biggest takeaways of meaningful training, is that the student arrives at the conclusion that, at least in terms of this stuff, because it's so common, people interact verbally every day, talking, and people encounter disagreement almost every day and have to talk through that. So it's not unusual in our training for people to arrive at the conclusion, so that's what I was doing when I thought I was making progress in this discussion while in disagreement with someone. Yes. I now understand why it's better to follow up a description of an undesirable outcome with a description of a desirable outcome. We call that the negative prompt followed by positive prompt. Yes. Oh, and I was doing that already. Or I see how I always end the interaction on the negative prompt. I need to improve that and end the interaction on a positive prompt. These skills are not owned by the hostage discipline. The fact that they were called hostage negotiation skills was a product of circumstance and the public safety profession that they were born in. But the fact of the matter is that the hostage discipline does not have ownership over these skills. It doesn't have ownership over active listening. In fact, it would be Gary and Jack Cambria, and you can check them out on our Icons of Influence production. They spend an extraordinary amount of time delivering education about what these things are actually called, active listening skills. They're summarized in what's known as the MORE PIES, MOREPIES acronym. Check them out. When you work with us, we use some similar nomenclature. We have found for us some terms that work more effectively in communicating exactly what something is called and what to do with it, so that people can organize their thinking in a manner that gets themselves out of the way and leads someone to a willingness to potentially be more cooperative. Half of the battle in any crisis intervention, I would say, is avoiding things that make conditions worse, avoiding statements and personal needs in the moment and expressing them at times where they can make things worse. good training resolves that mystery to the extent that someone else's crisis is not my crisis. We're in a time right now where people are in very, very high disagreement, seething disagreement over the events in Minnesota. What are some tips that might enable you to navigate these discussions and not fall into the trap of argument, not fall into the trap of losing a friend or losing a colleague or losing goodwill because there's disagreement? Well, the first commitment would be to yourself. I am not going to undermine myself no matter what this other person says, if that's at all possible. That may mean you have to hear things that you find personally offensive. You may have to hear things that you find irritating and stay committed to the idea that you're going to listen without challenging someone's viewpoint and then exercise the dignity of response by sharing your opinion without assailing the alternative opinion. There's a way to navigate these situations where we can both express what we think and feel without assailing someone else. This is where things get messy out in the public. Everyone has an opinion that is being filled with, let's say, assaultive context of alternative opinions. Now, you may say, Andy, aren't you just trying to normalize speech so that no one should have any feelings? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that if I'm going to describe what I think and feel, I'm going to describe what I think and feel in a way that does not diminish the way someone else thinks and feels. Now, if they are feeling uncomfortable as a result of, let's say, how clear I am in my thought, how definitive I am in my speech, that's different than describing alternative opinions in a derogatory way. Think about that for a minute. If in the presentation of my thoughts and feelings, someone is feeling irritated, offended, but none of my language was oriented toward them or their idea, it was merely describing what I think or feel, that can be managed a lot more easily than saying, that sucks, that idea sucks, you suck, this is why your argument is stupid. And isn't it interesting that we see on our social media platforms that level of discourse, that level of behavior among human beings? As long as we do that, as long as people are expecting others to be a certain way, we're not going to get anywhere. You must regulate yourself before you are entitled to any explanation about something that someone else is doing. That means that in your experience and observation of your own emotional arousal, in your own experience of that, your job is to, what Tony Blauer would describe as, lean into duress and do the thing you were trained to do. When you work with us or any other, good education provider in de-escalation, what you're leaning into are thoughts and statements that let someone else know that they are seen, heard, and understood. What are you doing after that? You're searching for some kind of shared value or common ground, even if we have fundamental disagreement. What are you doing after that? You're suggesting a course of action that might enable you to come closer together in agreement about something. And you're describing, following that, how that may be a better state to get to than what we're doing right now. That means you're moving the discussion and the relationship in inches. You're never going to be able to unseat, particularly when someone is in crisis, whatever their belief is, and replace it with your more enlightened thinking. That's just an invitation to get punched in the mouth. You're going to have to find a way to let someone know that they're seen, heard, and understood without necessarily agreeing with them. That can be done pretty easily. You then may have to reframe what's going on from a debate of ideas to a discussion about relationship in the moment. Look, it seems like you and I are not in agreement about a number of things. Mutual respect is fundamentally important to many human beings. How about we take a beat and just try to re-regulate for a moment and reestablish this discussion in a few minutes. That way we can potentially make some progress without allowing anger to interfere with our ability to understand one another. It might be resetting the conversation. The recommendations that we're making, though, these are the things we do with hostage takers. These are the things that are done when someone is holding people against their will, barricading themselves against their will, or engaged in some kind of discontrol or dysregulation in a medical setting. The skills don't change based on the event. If our interest is in de-escalation and intervention, guess what? The takeaway is that these skills are not owned, nor were they particularly born in the public safety context of hostage negotiation. Hostage negotiation is a professional title over which skills in that discipline are called, but they are not distinct, particularly in majority. There are a few things that are done in the negotiation skill set in hostage events that are going to be different than we use in other events, but very few. The majority of them, the overwhelming vast majority of them, are skills that are anchored in self-regulation and not making the conditions worse as you try to influence someone's behavior in a constructive direction. So, a lot of words I've kind of spoken the past 17 minutes. I hope they were of some value to you. Hostage negotiation skills are not owned by the hostage negotiation discipline. They're not even specific to them. They are called hostage negotiation skills because the public safety context gave it a heading. The founder of the FBI's hostage negotiation program named the unit the Crisis Negotiation Unit. Why? Because Gary had this figured out a long time ago. These skills are synonymous with the human condition. And whether a human being is taking a hostage or engaged in some other destructive activity, the things that we do to try to engender collaboration and peace are to let people know that they're seen, heard, and understood, to search for some kind of shared value or common ground, and to make suggestion that moves the relationship forward in inches. And if that occurs, negative outcomes can be avoided. I hope that there's been some value in this live, and I'm sorry if trying to do it, I wanted to do both at the same time, and I hope this wasn't inconvenient for folks. I wish you all well, and take good care. Be good to one another.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.